Welcome. Recently, the Union Cabinet has changed the new education policies. In this video, we will see what are the major changes in the education policies 2020. This is the third education policies in India since independence. The first education policies was introduced in 1968 by the Indira Gandhi government based on the Kothari Commission 1964 to 1966. From the first Kothari Commission, it recommended 6% of GDPs to be used in education, but India never spent 6% GDP since independence. But in this third education policies, the government has increased to invest 6% GDP in education. The second national policy of education was introduced in 1986 by Rajiv Gandhi government, and it was partially modified in 1992 by P.V. Narasimha Rao government. From the beginning of Indian Constitution, education is also a part of the Constitution. In the part 14 of the Indian Constitution, article number 45 and article number 39F of Directive Principle of State Policies has provision for state funded as well as equitable and accessible education. In 1976, 42nd Constitution Amendment has moved the education from state to concurrent list. In 1976 was a major changes in education. Not only that, in 2002, 86 Constitution Amendments made education as a fundamental right inserted in the article number 21A, which led to the Right to Education of Free and Compulsory Education Act in 2009 and make us a fundamental right under article number 21A. The main aim was from 6 years to 14 years of children to be enforced in education as a fundamental right, and it also mandated 25% reservation for disadvantaged section of the society. From the second National Policy of Education 1986, it has led to different schemes and major changes in the Indian system of education. In 1995, the midday meal scheme was launched, which seek to address the issue of hunger and education in the school by serving hot cooked meal and improving the nutritional status of children, enrollment, and increase of attendance in the school and retention rate in the school. In 2000, SSA SSA MDMS was launched to seek the universal access of education and retention of school education, retention of students in school. And some changes in Navodaya Vidyalayas school was introduced in 1986 under CBSE board, and use of ID in education sector. Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan RMSA was also introduced in 2009 to enhance the secondary education and improve its quality. Despite of all this, the present education policies has discussed the gap between the education policies, education in India. These new education policies, the cabinet approved the new education policies 2020 and introduced the major changes in Indian system of education from preschool to college level. The main aim of these new education policies was to fill the gap in the education field and making it aim of India a global knowledge superpower. This was the third education policies in India since independence. First was 1968, second in 1986. The present education system of policy was adopted in 1986, which have been continuous till date. That it for last 34 years. So Indian country got education policy after 34 years. In this new education policies, the 5 major changes we see. The cabinet renamed the HRD minister to be a Ministry of Education. Number 2 was the gross domestic product investment in education from 1.6% to 6%. Presently, we are having only 1.6% gross GDP, but the new education policies seek to invest 6%. Another major changes we see is the new education policies aim for universalization of education from preschool to secondary level with 100% cross-enrollment ratio in school education by 2030. Number 4 changes was cross-enrollment ratio in higher education to be raised 50% by 2035. The present curriculum's education system 10+2 has to be replaced by 5+3+3+4 curriculum and pedagogy structure. The major changes in the education, the present system of education was 10+2. Age 6 to 16 years, that is 10 years, and 2 years from 16 to 18 years. There is a huge gap between. So that was filled up by this new education policies. The new education policies have changes and major reforms. Foundational stage. In this foundation stage, 3 years has to be invested in the Anganwadi or preschooling, that is between the age of 3 to 6. From class 1 to class 2, the children group of age 6 to 8 has to be enrolled. In this foundation stage, the children are mostly focused on the multi-level play activities-based learning. Class 3 to class 5, age 8 to 11 years old, the preparatory stage. In this stage, the children will mostly focus on the play, discovery, activities-based and interactive classroom learning. The middle stage, that is class 6 to class 8, from age 11 to 14 years, that is 3 years, the children has to enroll. In this stage, the content of learning, like experience learning in the science, mathematics, social science, arts, and humanities subject has to be taught. And the 4 years of teachings, class 9 to class 12, from age between 14 to 18 years, the secondary stage, the multidisciplinary studies, greater critical thinking, flexibility in subject and student choice of subject. The major changes was from the class 9 onward, the student has to give a flexibility of the subject that they wish to choose. Example, like if they are taking the science as a major subject, they can take another subject like sports or music as their minor subject. The flexibility of the subject is also introduced from class 9 onward. The level of student has to put in sample focus categories like preschool is class 5 up to class 5, middle school from class 6 to class 8 as before, high school will be class 9 to class 12, and degree from class 12 onward, the degree course will be provided. The most important changes we see here is the vocational training will start from class 6 onward and will give more exposure to the student from the early age. The student can also choose their respective favorite subject from class 9, and it will provide them as a platform to do specialization in the subject they have chosen. That means If the student want a certain subject as a specialization, they can choose from the class 9 onward. The flexibility of the subject is also introduced. The duration of all the graduate course, that graduate course will start from class 12 onward, will be 4 years. Thus, it given amply times for students to master the subject of their respective interest in subject. The major changes we see in the education, school education, up to class 5, the mother tongue and regional language is introduced. The teaching up to at least grade 5 to be in mother tongue or regional language. Vocational education to start from class 6 with intensive. And the present system of progress report is also replaced by 360-degree holistic progress card. That means academic plus co-curricular activities plus practicals, everything will be judged for the progress card of the student. And the school will have 2 examinations in a year. All school examination will run semester wise, and thus 2 exams will be held annually. In higher education, 50% of cross enrollment ratio is targeted by 2035. In holistic and multidisciplinary education, and flexibility of subject is introduced in these new education policies in higher education. Multiple entry and exit. Undergraduate program will be 3 years or 4 years. Postgraduate will be 1 year or 2 years. And the most important things is MPhil to be discontinued, and critic transfer and academic bank of critic is introduced. So in higher educations, holistic approach of education and the flexibility of subject is introduced. In higher education also, if you wish to choose a different types of subject, like you are interested in science as well as in arts, you can choose the flexibility of subject. You can choose chemistry as your honors and history as your minor subject, or you can choose commerce. If you don't like Hindi, you will not choose Hindi. If you don't like mathematics, you cannot choose mathematics. So the flexibility of choosing of subject is also introduced, and multiple exit and entry. MPhil is to be discontinued, but the master and the PhD, if you want to go for PhD, your master degree is enough and you can register in the PhD. An academic bank of critic, that means some students who are very much interested to go for outside the books. Suppose you are studying in the higher education for 2 years, and if you want to discontinue and go for another type of research, so when you return back, your credit will be added and you continue the study. That is the credit transfer and academic bank of critics will be introduced in the higher education. Multidisciplinary Education and Research University (MIRU), as per with the IIT and IIM, to be set up in a model of the best multidisciplinary education of global standard in the country. And another changes we see is the National Research Foundation to be created as an apex body to fostering a strong research culture and building research capacity across higher education in the country. Higher Education Commission of India (HECI) will be set up as a single umbrella body for the entire higher education, excluding medical and legal education. So for throughout the country, HECI, that is Higher Education Commission of India, will be set up for the entire education in higher education institute, excluding medical and legal education. Another changes we see is Sanskrit language will be available to every level of education if the student want to choose, along with the other classical language and literature. Academic bank of credit to be established to facilitate the transfer of credits. Another changes we see is in higher education is all higher education system will be controlled by single authority, and now the UGC and the AICTE will be merged as one body. All university, that is either government, central university, private university, deemed to be university, open university and vocational training institute will be the same grading pattern and regularization. That means all system of higher educations, either private or government, will be grading with the same system of grading and regulation throughout the country. One teacher training board has to be set up for the entire country respective of the subject. For teacher training board will be set up in the country to look after the teacher training. Another changes is the accreditation of this institute will be based on the similar criteria. They will be able to avail autonomous right and central funds based on their rating. For the teachers, the three most important changes we see in the teachers in the new education policy is a new and the comprehensive national curriculum framework for teacher education NCFTE by 2021 has to be set up, will be formulated by National Council of Teacher Education in consultation with the NCERT. By 2030, the minimum eligible criteria for the teacher will be 4 years integrated B.Ed course will be introduced by 2030. One teacher training board to be set up for all teachers in the country irrespective of the subject. So this is very interesting. The national scholarship portals to be expanded to track the progress of the student receiving the scholarship. Private higher education institute will be focused to offer larger number of free seats and scholarship to their students. Measures such as online course and digital repository funding for research, improvement of student service, critic-based recognition of massive open online course will be taken to ensure distance learning with the highest quality in class progress. So these are some changes for the student community. An autonomous body, another changes we see is the autonomous body, the National Educational Technology Forum, NETF will be created to improve and provide a platform for the free exchange of ideas on the use of technology to enhance learning, assessment, planning, and administration. New education policy recommend a setting up of Indian Institution of Translation and Interpretation IITI and National Institution for Pali, Persian, and Prakrit, strengthening of Sanskrit and all language department in higher education institution, and the use of mother tongue, local language as a medium of instruction in more higher education institution program. So this new education policies is very interesting. We see a lot of changes. I will be sending the PDF in the link below. You can download. If you see any changes, you please come on. Thank you.